She's doing okay with him, but he's not taking the hint that his energy is too much. Right away, it is clear the Juice is very excited. So I do agree with Moini. He's good natured and not aggressive, but this excitement could trigger a fight.
A near-fatal breakdown in 2010 nearly ended the life of Cesar Millan, while the world watched him appear completely in control. At the height of his fame on The Dog Whisperer, the man who taught millions how to handle aggression in dogs was privately collapsing under the weight of his own life. A self-harm attempt, a failing marriage, financial pressure, and personal losses were all unfolding at once, hidden behind the calm, commanding image seen on television. So what really happened behind the success story? How did a man who built an empire on control lose control of everything around him? And why did so many of the darkest claims about his career remain buried for years? Join us as we uncover what happened to Cesar Millan, the stranger who changed everything. Cesar Millan was born on a farm where his grandfather was a tenant farmer, and where dogs were working animals rather than family members. He grew up handling dogs so naturally that the people around him called him El Perrero, the dog herder. And he spent his childhood watching American television shows like Lassie and Rin Tin Tin with the strong belief that he was going to be the best dog trainer in the world. That dream required him to be somewhere that was not rural Sinaloa. And in 1990, at 21 years old, he paid a coyote his last $100, crossed the U.S.-Mexico border illegally through the foothills around Tijuana, and arrived in San Diego without English, without contacts, and without a plan beyond the goal itself. He spent a month living on the streets of San Diego before finding his first job at a dog grooming salon, where the clients noticed quickly that he had an unusual ability to calm anxious animals. He moved north to Los Angeles, eventually found work at an auto detailing business, bought a van, and began taking problem dogs with him for days at a time to train them, becoming well known enough in certain neighborhoods to be recognizable. The Mexican guy on rollerblades being pulled by a pack of leashed dogs through the streets of Inglewood and South Central. In 1998, he opened his dog psychology center in South Central Los Angeles, and word spread to the kind of clients who could make a television show possible. The connection that actually launched his career was not a studio executive or a talent agent, but Jada Pinkett Smith, whom he befriended shortly after arriving in Los Angeles. She set him up with a friend who taught him English, and as his reputation grew, she became one of his earliest and most vocal Hollywood supporters, connecting him to other industry figures who became clients, and eventually to the attention of producers who could see the television potential in what he did. His first national media mention came in People magazine in December 2002, in a piece about the transformation of Ridley Scott's Jack Russell Terriers. By 2004, Dog Whisperer with Cesar Millan was on the National Geographic Channel, and the man who had crossed the border with $100 was suddenly one of the most watched personalities on American cable television. The show's success was rapid, and by its third season, it was the highest-rated series on the National Geographic Channel and had been nominated for an Emmy. But from the very beginning of that success, a serious and well-credentialed opposition was forming around the specific question of whether what Cesar did was helping dogs or hurting them. The expert community that spent a decade saying he was wrong. Cesar's main idea is simple, and he has said it for years. Dogs are like pack animals and need a calm, confident leader. He also believes dogs need three things most: exercise, discipline, and affection, in that order. Because of this, he uses methods like leash corrections, putting a dog on its back, and what he calls the touch, which is a firm way to get a dog's attention or stop bad behavior. These methods are based on the idea that dogs naturally follow a leader. The show presents them as easy, effective ways to understand and train dogs. The problem, according to many animal behavior experts, is that this whole idea is flawed. The American Veterinary Society of Animal Behavior says dominance-based training can actually make dogs more fearful or even more aggressive. They also point out that the famous alpha wolf idea came from studying wolves in captivity, not in the wild, and even the scientist behind it later admitted it wasn't accurate. In other words, the pack leader model doesn't really match how dogs or wolves behave in real life. Experts argue that using it for training can be misleading and sometimes makes behavior problems worse instead of solving them. Cesar strongly disagrees. For him, the proof is in the results. He often points to dogs that were seen as dangerous or hopeless, which he says were rehabilitated and returned to normal family life through his methods. He also argues that while positive reinforcement sounds good in theory, it doesn't work for every dog in real situations, and his approach fills that gap. Many viewers agree with him, especially when they see the transformations on his show. But critics haven't held back. In 2012, on the Alan Titchmarsh show, Alan Titchmarsh directly called Cesar's methods cruel and unnecessary, referring to footage where he believed Cesar struck a dog in the throat. Cesar pushed back, saying it was only a corrective touch. The RSPCA also weighed in on air, warning that his techniques can cause pain and fear, and may even worsen behavior problems. What made the moment so intense was that both sides were looking at the same footage, but describing completely different realities. And the controversy didn't stay theoretical. Over time, it escalated into real-world complaints and lawsuits involving dogs under his care. What started as a debate about training methods turned into a much bigger question about what actually happens behind the scenes, and whether the results justify the methods used to achieve them. The lawsuits that made headlines. The first major lawsuit came in 2006, when Flody Suarez, a producer on the show 8 Simple Rules, filed a complaint in Los Angeles Superior Court, alleging that his 5-year-old Labrador Retriever, Gator, had been severely injured at Cesar's Dog Psychology Center. According to the lawsuit, Flody dropped Gator off at the facility and received a call hours later saying the dog had been rushed to a veterinarian. When he arrived, Gator was bleeding from his mouth and nose, in an oxygen tent gasping for breath, and with severe bruising to his back and inner thighs. The suit alleged that workers at the facility had placed a choke collar on the dog, pulled him onto a treadmill, and forced him to overwork. Suarez claimed more than $25,000 in veterinary bills. The case was settled the following year, with terms undisclosed. In 2015, a Florida nurse named Allison Bitney filed suit claiming she had been attacked and permanently disfigured by a dog that had been released from Cesar's training center, and that the release had been premature because the dog had not actually completed rehabilitation. The complaint described disfiguring open wounds, deep muscle and tendon lacerations, and bone fractures, and sought punitive damages for what it characterized as negligent release of an animal that the center had agreed to rehabilitate. The case added to a pattern that critics of Cesar were pointing to: not just the methods used on animals in his care, but the judgment being exercised about when those animals were safe to return to the public. The most consequential of the lawsuits came in 2021, when a plaintiff named Lydia Mattis filed suit over an incident that had occurred in 2017, when she was a minor and a Level 10 competitive gymnast, the highest level in the USA Gymnastics Junior Olympics program. The lawsuit alleged that Cesar's pit bull, Junior, had attacked her at an office building owned by Cesar in Van Nuys, California, biting her repeatedly on her left leg and causing injuries so severe that she was unable to continue competing. She had been actively recruited by universities, including the University of Pennsylvania, at the time of the attack. The lawsuit further alleged that Junior had a documented history of attacking both humans and other dogs prior to the incident, and that Cesar was aware of this history. The case was set to go to trial in the summer of 2022, but was settled before that date, with terms sealed. The Mattis lawsuit contained one additional allegation that generated significant attention on its own. The claim that Junior had previously killed one of Queen Latifah's dogs during a training session at Cesar's facility, and that Cesar had covered up the animal's death by telling the singer that her dog had been killed by a car. Cesar's representatives called the allegation a blatant lie. The truth of the specific claim remains, as a matter of public record, unresolved. The case settled before a court could adjudicate it. But the allegation itself, combined with the severity of what Mattis described happening to her at 17 years old, represented the lowest point of Cesar's legal exposure in his career. The lawsuits were public and damaging, but they were happening at the same time as a personal crisis that nobody outside Cesar's immediate circle knew about until 2 years after it occurred. A collapse so complete that it nearly ended his life entirely. The complete collapse. Everything fell apart for Cesar Millan in the first months of 2010, in a sequence of losses that arrived too fast and too hard for any person to absorb in the normal way. In February, his pit bull Daddy died of cancer at 16 years old. Daddy had been with Cesar since the early years of the Dog Psychology Center and had appeared on the show constantly, not just as a recurring character, but as a genuine working partner, a calm, experienced animal that Cesar used to help socialize troubled dogs, and whose steady presence was part of his professional method. Cesar has called him my mentor. He went everywhere with me, even the red carpet, Cesar told Inside Edition. Daddy's death was the loss of a collaborator at the center of his professional life. A month after Daddy died, while Cesar was on tour in Europe, his wife of 16 years, Illusion, told him over the phone that she was filing for divorce. It was hard because I wasn't expecting it. I went into a big depression. I lost a lot of weight, and I felt that I lost the most important thing, which was my family. As the financial picture became clearer in the weeks that followed, Cesar discovered something that compounded the devastation. Despite being one of the most watched personalities on cable television, a series of bad business deals had left him with almost nothing to show for it. He told Men's Journal, "I found out I didn't own anything. Just t-shirts and touring," he told Men's Journal. The show, the books, the brand, and almost none of the underlying financial architecture belonged to him. That May, on the floor of his wife's house, he swallowed a combination of her Xanax and whatever other pills he could find, got into bed, and waited. He has described his thinking in those minutes with a directness that is difficult to sit with. "I thought, if I do a combination, I can die quicker. So I just took all the pills I could find." Instead of death, he woke up in the hospital psychiatric ward, where he was kept under observation for 72 hours. His response to waking up alive was characteristically practical. "Nothing happened. I thought, well, shit, that means I'm not supposed to die. I better get back to work." He refused medication as part of his recovery, and instead, in keeping with the philosophy he had always taught, rebuilt himself through physical exercise and structured work. The divorce was eventually finalized. He agreed to pay Illusion $23,000 per month for life. His older son, Andre, refused to reconcile with him for years afterward. The personal collapse happened at the same time the professional picture was beginning to fray at the edges. The show's cultural momentum was slowing. The critical pressure was intensifying. And the pig incident that would come in 2016 would bring an animal cruelty investigation directly to his door. The pig incident and the show that quietly disappeared. Dog Whisperer with Cesar Millan ran on the National Geographic Channel until 2012, when it was canceled after 8 seasons. A spin-off format, Cesar 911, launched on Nat Geo Wild and continued through 2016. And it was during this run that the incident occurred which generated the most direct legal scrutiny of Cesar's methods. In a February 2016 episode, Cesar was working with a French Bulldog Terrier mix named Simon that had a history of attacking its owner's pigs. To address the behavior, Cesar arranged a direct training session with a pig. Simon attacked the pig, biting its ear and drawing blood. The episode was broadcast, and the American Humane Association responded formally, stating that the treatment of the animals did not meet their guidelines for the safe use of animals in filmed media. More than 10,000 people signed a petition calling the methods inhumane. Los Angeles County Animal Control launched an investigation. The investigation concluded on April 11, 2016, when the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office declined to file charges, citing insufficient evidence and finding that Cesar's methods were safe and humane. The formal finding cleared him legally, but the episode had already done reputational damage that the exoneration could not fully undo. The Better Human, Better Dog series launched on National Geographic in 2021 and ran for 5 seasons, with the 4th premiering in April 2024 and the 5th following in August 2024. In late 2024, the show vanished from Disney+, where it had been streaming, with Disney offering a statement describing it as a standard business decision, which is the kind of corporate explanation that provides no useful information about what actually motivated the choice. Fans were frustrated. Cesar did not make a public statement about the removal. The show had not been renewed for a 6th season as of mid-2025. And through all of it, the cancellations, the lawsuits, the pig investigation, the viral rumors in early 2025 that falsely claimed he had been sentenced to life in prison, Cesar kept building and finding audiences who were not ready to let him go. Let's check out what he's doing now. Cesar Millan, Present Reality. Cesar Millan currently operates the Dog Psychology Center in Santa Clarita, California, a 43-acre facility in the mountains north of Los Angeles that serves as his training base, his filming location, and the physical embodiment of the dream he has described carrying since childhood. In March 2025, he launched a live virtual coaching membership called the Pack Leadership Community, giving subscribers weekly direct access to him through live sessions and real-time Q&A. He partnered with XL Brands on a pet product line called Trust, Respect, Love by Cesar Millan. He launched a podcast called Walking with Cesar in late 2024, blending training advice with personal stories and mindset coaching. He performed at the San Diego County Fair in June 2025, working with live audiences in the format he has used since the original show's cancellation. Half lecture, half demonstration with local shelter dogs. He is engaged to Jahira Dar, a Dominican-born woman he met when she was working as a salesperson at a Dolce & Gabbana store in Los Angeles, whom he has been with since 2011, and to whom he became formally engaged in 2016. His son Calvin has appeared in some of his media projects, and Cesar has said openly that he is building toward a generational handoff, that part of what he is doing now is training his sons to carry the work forward. His older son, Andre, with whom his relationship fractured during the divorce, eventually reconciled with him, which Cesar has spoken about as one of the most important repairs he has made in his life. The controversy over his methods has not resolved and shows no particular sign of resolving. The behavioral science community's position has not changed. Dominance-based training is considered by mainstream animal behavior researchers to be based on an inaccurate model of dog behavior and to carry real risks of increasing fear and aggression in the animals subjected to it. Cesar's position has also not changed. He defends the results he produces, acknowledges that no single method works for every dog, and continues operating under a philosophy he developed not in an academic setting, but in the streets of South Central Los Angeles. Watching how dogs with nothing in common with a captive wolf pack actually behaved when handled by someone who trusted his instincts more than any textbook. What the full arc of his story makes clear is that Cesar's actual subject has never only been dogs. The dogs are the method. The subject is the question of how to establish authority over something that doesn't speak your language, and how to project the kind of calm, centered, purposeful energy that causes a frightened or aggressive animal to recognize you as the stable center of its world and stop fighting. Cesar has spent 55 years answering that question in the context of dogs. He has also, by his own account, spent those same years failing to answer it in the context of his marriage, his finances, his older son, and the critical community that has argued he is causing harm while believing he is doing good. The gap between those two things, the man who can calm any dog and the man who cannot always calm his own life, is what makes him genuinely complicated in a way that neither his defenders nor his critics have been entirely willing to sit with. Do you think Cesar methods work and are ideal? Or is the science totally right about it being animal abuse? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.